So, Alan, thank you very much for coming back
Pleasure,
to
Nick.
the Future Leader Forum.
Nice to see you again.
And I believe you have an interesting story to tell. I believe
Well,
you have started your second career.
yes.
And your second career, I believe, is taking you from being the founder of a global company, Chefworks, to now being an investor.
Yes, that's quite right.
Can you tell us, how did you get into startups and how did you get into investing in startups?
Sure. So a number of years ago, we were at various board meetings for Chefworks around the world. We had presentations from young tech guys who were telling us to spend millions of dollars on Facebook, Google, Instagram, this technology, that one, and this one was no good, that you just spent a whole lot of money on a year ago. Now you must spend your money here. So it was mind-boggling, and especially as I hate social media, never had I've got a very minimalist participation even on LinkedIn. I'm not that active, or Facebook. You can hardly get any information on me, I hope. I don't like or dislike. I use it just to when people say to me, have you seen that particular story or that person or that event or that social event, and I want to see some photographs of family or friends and that, I will go and have a look. But otherwise I'm not a great social media guy. And so I had to start exploring these platforms and that, and educating myself on how they work. And I found myself meeting with young guys that were so smart, that were doing unbelievably smart things in the app and the startup world, that I started to spend time talking to them, and found out that I could offer them experience that I have from the old world of bricks and mortar. But having traveled the world as I do, and I still do, I was able to help them to think globally, and to really, I couldn't teach them technically what they were doing. They had no really interest in that, but of having a basic understanding of what they were trying to do, I could help them think about the world as a global opportunity. And the true successful apps that are out there today, the technology startups, are ones that can really expand globally. And sure, so I have a huge network of connections in our business, in the Chefworks world, around the world. For example, our very close partners in South America, one crowd is the largest distributor of Coca-Cola in southern South America. So I'm able to pick up the phone, send an email, introduce, look to find out whether this technology would work in this particular place or not. And so this is what I've done. So I found, and as I've spent the last 3 years really getting into investing in a whole number of these startups, I'm absolutely blown away by the intelligence, the ingenuity of these guys, and coming from, again, the bricks and mortar world where it's huge infrastructure, staffing, HR, all those issues, where a team of very smart youngsters can have a multi-million-dollar business overnight with the right smartness. So that's really where I've gone. And I spent so your question was, how did I get into this? That's how I got into it. And I was quite worried, having really not had a KPI at the age of 58, what I was going to do. I always thought I would get up to 65, I would be very active. So I still have a part to play in my global business, but I'm more infatuated and more really drawn to this tech world that I'm living in now. So it's a fascinating journey, loving every minute of it. And people I have about 5 youngsters that I'm mentoring, and I have about 35 of these investments I've made in various startups, and they're really terrific, exciting places to be. Haven't made a cent out of any of them. these things can take 5 years, 3 to 5 years. A couple have already fallen over. So it's not for the faint-hearted. This investing in this type of world, there's no guarantees, and and you learn to be more discerning with the type of person. You look to profile the people better than I did in my earlier investments. But they say that you have to have some real serious failures to appreciate where to put your money and your effort in the future ones to come across. So that's really what I'm doing.
Now, it looks to me really to be an interesting model where your generation matches up their skills with the youngsters. So do you think that can be a model for people your age, successful business people, that can now partner with startups to the benefit of both?
That's a fascinating question because I'm finding that a lot of my peers, a lot of the guys of my age, I'm 62 now, are not that savvy. People think that a website and an email, sending emails, or having a Facebook page is being part of the tech world. This is getting into deep stuff for the business end of it, and I'm finding that I'm not an academic. I didn't come from that world, but I found that by immersing myself and spending time with these sort of people, I'm learning more and more. Still, I can't code but I understand what they need to build a team if they are going to build a team. So I think, can anybody get into this? I suppose so, because I'm certainly not qualified to be in it, if the tech world, but I'm not. But I certainly. By spending time with these people, I've learned an unbelievable amount of skills and I'm finding that they are fascinated by my journey, because these are youngsters that have got great tech skills, but not great life skills. So so I'm able to guide them. Some of my calls are it always comes with a disclaimer. You either be careful, listen to what I tell you, but you make the decision, and they're making smart decisions, and somehow they're coming back for a few more. So I must be telling them some interesting things for them to consider. But yes, I think from a survival point of view, I mean the artificial intelligence, the AI now, people have no idea what unrest is going to be in the world. And they talk about the jobs of the future. We don't know what the jobs of the future are going to be. I'm as scared as everybody else about how this is going to disrupt. I mean, I'm seeing huge disruption in many of the AI products. I'm involved in a number of AI businesses now, and the solutions that these things offer are actually very dangerous from an employment point of view, because they can disrupt huge amounts of employment in the world in various categories. So yeah.
Can you maybe give us an example?
Well, fascinating. I've just invested in a company that can pick crops, apples and oranges. So it's a drone company. They can fly their drones into a typical farmer's got an orchard. He can now grow his trees 2 meters higher than they used to, so you don't need ladders now to go and pick. You don't need to bring imported migrant labor to come in, which comes with huge problems, because that's part of what's going up in the world now. The Fortress Europe and Fortress America, they don't want masses of unemployed people or lowly qualified people, and there seems to be a big problem with that. And this is a solution that can fly these drones into an orchard and within 24 hours pick the entire crop in the orchard, not have any issues with labor, with permits, everything else, and very efficiently. So quite amazing. So that's just one example of something I've got involved in. There are so many from the thing. I mean, the legal profession is under huge pressure from artificial intelligence. The accounting profession. So I spoke to an AI company who's doing some very smart work with the banks, and I said, why don't you get an actuary to come and do some of your modeling? He says, you crazy? He says, I can set the algorithm off and do 20 solutions before this before the smart actuary can produce one. I can't give a professional comment on that, or an educated thing, but this is coming from a physicist who's involved in AI, and he doesn't believe that he's one that says accountants, lawyers, doctors. That's an interesting one as well to explore. But actuaries are not essential people, and in fact, the AI can easily replace many of the things that these people that field does. Yeah.
So it's coming faster than
I
we
think
might
so.
have thought.
I think so. I think, as I said, there's going to be huge social unrest in the world. Governments eventually are going to have to pay people to stay in place. You're not going to have the jobs as we know them, the financial world as we know it. There's huge social issues that I believe are going to come. All the stuff I'm reading sort of confirms that, and so it is a worry. But it's not going to stop. It's not going to stop because we think that there's going to be a problem in the future. One of the most frightening companies in the world is Amazon, and you see what Amazon's doing to the high street in most major cities in the world. I'm seeing it in London, where there's major shopping centres, major shops closing down, retail shops in the high streets are closing down. People are shopping online. They're not buying. They're not going into a thing. People want the experience. People talk about, pay lip service to it, but they seem to be not using it. So yes, this comes with a huge change. I hope all the smart guys are right that there will be plenty of jobs in the future. But that old, in South Africa, I remember people saying, you've got to send your kids to university. They've got to get a Bachelor of Commerce. They've got to think. I think it's the worst thing to do today. I think, yes, for the discipline and the knowledge, yes, maybe to do a BCom is a smart thing, but it's really a nowhere, zero sum gain to go and send the kid on a 3-month boot camp coding course to learn how to code and get into artificial intelligence. Those are the jobs of the future. Those are seriously jobs of the future. Those guys will be fully utilized. I mean, these big projects now are going to swallow up a huge amount of these guys, and I think there's a huge shortage already in the world of competent AI and coding type people.
So, Alan, in your view, and I know it's a difficult question, but what could be the industries of the future?
Well, it's well, again, just what I said just a moment ago. The world around coding, the world around technology, learning about these teams. I see young teams of guys in London now working out of workspaces. And building teams with smart guys, dynamic, young, nimble teams, where they've got a team of coders, they've got a team of marketing people, and they're looking for these opportunities to blow up companies in small sizes. I think I think Amazon is a huge employer still, even though they're a technology company. But the startups that I'm starting to see are nimble small companies, 6-10 people. They outsource a piece of work to, if they need some coding done, they'll outsource that piece of code and get it back, and in they go. And so they're starting to hurt. I'm seeing it in the banks. The conventional banks of the world are struggling. I've just seen South Africa, they're closing a lot of retail branches right now. In London recently, I met a guy from a bank called, I think it's Monzo. I mean, the guy did a talk at a Goldman Sachs disruptive conference where he came onto the stage in a t-shirt and a pair of jeans, and he's the owner of a massive bank that's growing so fast, but it's a digital bank. It's not. It has no. There's no bricks and mortar to it, and they're growing so fast, and so people are looking for that,
So, Alan, when you consider investing in a startup,
yes,
what are the things you're looking for? What are the success factors you want to see?
Okay, so ignoring some of my early mistakes, where I liked an idea more than the person that had the idea. I have two very strict criteria right now, and I think I'm still making some mistakes, but I'm trying to stick to it. So I categorize people, person first before even the idea, into A, B, and C type people. The A type person is the person doesn't necessarily have to be the coder, maybe the guy with the idea, but he puts a strong team around him, and he's got leadership qualities, and he's got process qualities. He can understand. He can be able to face up to investors. He can face up to the banks. He can face up to the funding and so on. So he's got that personality that can communicate. Critical. That's what I call an A type person. B type person is a little bit of the A, maybe some of the C. The C being a guy who can hardly look at you properly. He's got some precious code, some really smart code that he's written, but he can't communicate it. And unless he gets a partner, a jockey, that can carry him along the way and keep him in the background because he doesn't have the personality to sell the product and that. So again, A, B, and C type people, and I'm trying to only invest in A type people right now. Or there must be, in the team of guys, there must be that A type person who can speak for the rest of them and be clear on their vision and how they're going to do what they're going to do. The second criteria is the A, B, and C type ideas. You can have an absolute brilliant idea from an A type idea, I'll call it, the inventor is a C type personality, and you say, well, it doesn't matter how good that item is, unless he, some of these guys are a bit paranoid. They don't share. They're too scared to show you too much. They maybe correctly so, but they're not the people that, as I say, unless they can get somebody alongside them who's competent enough, I won't go near those kind of people anymore. I've had a couple of unpleasant experiences. Yeah, but you know what? You have to have those. I think most people have to fail along the way to understand how to succeed going forward. That's very much my philosophy. And I'm a bottom feeder. I'm not a. I listen to some of these top big venture capitalists. There's this guy Mark Cuban in America who will chase the guys out of his space if they haven't suffered a bit. He wants to see them. He wants to see them burn. He wants to see them. Also, you do come across some rich kids that have been sponsored by their fathers, and there's no necessity. Failure is not a problem because it's not going to hurt them at all. It has to feel. There has to be a hunger. There has to be a wild look in their eyes, like a deer in the headlights. They got to be frantic to how they're going to get their funding, how they're going to grow the thing. There must be an absolute, there's some interesting words, but I won't use them here. The commitment must be unrelenting. It must be absolutely single-minded and to succeed. And as we know, statistically, many of these fail. So you've got to try to be more discerning. There's hundreds and thousands of these apps trying to make it into the world, and you've got to be careful the ones that you're going to put your money in. And it's not for the faint-hearted. You've got the money that you put into these sort of things. You must be ready to. It's not as if you would go and buy Sasol shares or SA Brewery shares, and you're going to get a dividend and thing. These things can be unbelievably good if they work well, and they can be a shocker if they don't. So that's sort of pretty much my view. I hope that describes what I do. So
Alan, can you maybe share a success story where you did invest and you are pleasantly surprised, or maybe just pleasantly happy with the results so far?
Okay. So my portfolio is a mix of both. About a third of my portfolio is investing in companies that have got revenue. They're 2 or 3 years down the line. They've got some interesting success but they may not even be in profit as yet, and they still got a way to go. They could have 3 to 5 years to go. But there's a track record. There's a thing, and there's a lot of VCs out there, private equity, who will only go for those types of things. So and then there's a whole bunch of stuff that I've invested in that is really seed funding that I've got to the start, and that's where I've lost my on the 3 companies that I've invested in that have fallen over. This is love the ideas, just the execution by the founders were poor, and also the people, the valuations that these people put on these businesses are extraordinary at times, and they really they have got no reality in them. But some of them have got through. There were some smart guys who gave the Uber inventors a bit of money in the beginning, and look at that one now. It's going to be one of the biggest IPOs ever. So success stories are, I would say, around the ones that are already strongly in revenue. I mentioned to you earlier, I've invested in a company that can fly drones into orchards and pick crops. Huge need for it in the world. It's a very clear problem-solving product. Right. I love those kind of things. The stuff I don't love, and I've got a few of them, but I don't want to invest any further in them, or the fintech, a lot of fintech type products where unfortunately it's got to be an extraordinary product to survive on its own, or otherwise they've got to bolt it onto some large institution, either an insurance company or a bank. So those are not exciting for me anymore, and I'm trying to stay away from the fintech. At the moment, I have not even looked at a fintech product in the last 6 months. But so yeah, I have about 6 that I'm very, very excited by. If they see it through to the next 3 years, if you can get 100 times your money on a thing, that's exceptional. I suppose the guys who invest in Uber are getting a couple of thousand times their money. So those things are. But I think a great little company that gets up to $50 million, $100 million, and you're in at the early seeding, that's an exciting place to be, and I'm happy to be in it. So I would continue to do exactly what I've done, looking out for these types of opportunities, probably less aggressively than I've done it in the first 3 years since I've started. A little bit more discerning, but no less interested. I'm fascinated by this, and I think there's some exceptional stuff being invented and being proposed out there. Often these youngsters have got a brilliant idea, they just don't know how to put it together to explode it, and that's where I hope I'm contributing. So I'm guiding them and trying to make them to think in a level-headed way. I think I may have mentioned to you before, you've got to look for new cheese. That's always been a very strong factor behind my life. Who moved my cheese? You can't look in the same place. You've got to look in other places to find the opportunities and the growth, and it's been a very strong guide for me, to not be stuck. Also, you must be prepared if you see it, as I've had with 3 of my investments, where they've just got no chance of surviving. It's just flogging a dead horse, when to cut your losses and to walk away, and I have done that now with 3 of them. So I've got the battle scars.
So, Alan, what would be your advice for startup founders that want to attract investors like you?
You've got to have an absolute passion for what you're doing. You've got to be able to explain it very, very clearly. Often these again, and I go back to fintech products. They're very murky. We do a bit of this and that, and you find that you talk to similar. I mean, in the insurance industry, for example, I've seen so many products, and there's some smart large banks and institutions backing these kinds of people, where there's not much of a differentiator, and so the founder and the team, whether it's one person to start off with or the team that you meet, have got to be able to communicate exactly what they're doing, and by doing that, they start to believe their own philosophy and their own vision, and if that vision is exciting people like myself, and not everything I look at is exciting. They may You know, so it's very important that they can communicate their thing, and then the rest of it is, I don't like to say luck, but there's a lot of you got to get out there, you got to hustle, you got to meet people, you got to present as often as possible. Sometimes it's a heartbreaking exercise. The guys will say, I've been doing this for a year now, and nobody's backing me. Welcome to that world. When you crack it, and somebody does back you, that's when you'll remember the hard times when you try to hustle to get it off the ground. I spend a lot of time in the UK and in Berlin and Amsterdam and Helsinki. I also took my sons. We went to Silicon Valley on a trip 2 years ago. We've exposed ourselves to this world of tech and things, and the learning is unbelievable. I don't think there's not one day on one trip that I haven't learned something new. Sometimes I've invested, and sometimes I've just learnt, and so there's so much to learn. I'm no expert, and I'm really, as I said to you earlier, I'm a bottom feeder. I'm a real at the bottom of the eco chain in what I'm doing, but it's such fun. I mean, it's so exciting. It's exhilarating.
So you're having a great time?
Oh yes, no doubt.
In a way, you're future-proofing your second career, right?
Well, yeah, I'm trying to live an experiential life, which means, I'm not after the next bright piece of jewelry or faster car or thing. I'm more interested in going to meet with smart guys and see where I can walk out of there with my mind racing and wow, I want to be with these guys. I want to join with them in their adventure. That's what I'm looking for. It's a very exciting space.
No, I think it's very important, especially now that we are all going to live a lot longer. So for business people in their late 50s, what would you advise them? How should they go about launching this kind of second career?
Well, as I explained to you earlier, mine was presented to me as a have to make decisions type of thing, where I was ill-equipped to make any of those decisions. So for me, fortunately in my world, I've traveled a huge amount. I've been pretty much all over the planet. Very few countries that I haven't visited, and in my travels, I've learnt and been exposed to interesting ideas and concepts along the way. Not everybody has that luxury, but I must tell you that I don't think there's a trip that I've been traveling since my early 20s that I haven't learned something. So you've got to keep learning, and you've got to keep. I mean, I know there's quite an interesting initiative here in South Africa. I must admit, places like Amsterdam and London, and of course Silicon Valley, and one of the fastest growing areas in the world is China. The Chinese, I went to a conference in Europe recently where the Chinese were more than 50% of the 20,000 people. There were I think 8 to 10,000 Chinese. So the Chinese are investing heavily in AI. They're going to lead. They're already leading the world in 5G. You see the wars that are going on with the United States and Huawei. The Chinese are very focused in this. So there's a lot of, if one has the ability to get out into the world and go to a conference here or there, you've got to expose yourself. If not, there's we all have the internet. You can educate yourself and do the research, and there's a huge amount of stuff happening in South Africa as well, but to a lesser extent than what I'm seeing overseas. But really, that's my advice to anybody is, as I said, I have a different path. But if you can travel to go to a major show around the world, the biggest ecosystem obviously is Silicon Valley. There's a show in Helsinki every year in December. It's called Slush because it's a really problematic time of the year with full of snow on the floor. But it's they get the Nerd Express, which is a couple of planes flying from Silicon Valley full of venture capitalists and apparently I think $20 billion gets spent, or some ridiculous amount of money. It's one of the biggest ecosystems outside of Silicon Valley. where huge amount of Scandinavian and European startups are pitching and listing their products, and you've got to engage. You've got to talk and learn, and sometimes something will resonate with you, and it'll appeal to you, and you'll maybe put your money into that. There's a very easy entry into the world of startups right now, and that's the crowdfunding. I have invested in a number of the crowdfunding opportunities. It allows you to go in for far less money, so you can buy small pieces. So you're getting a fraction of a percent. But if you get a big exit, it doesn't matter. If you put $1,000 into a crowdfunding and it pays out 100 times, it's better money than you're going to get in the banks for your money. In Europe now, they're giving you any interest on your money. In America as well. So if you can find appealing investments, that's the way to do it. But that's really pretty much my advice on one thing. You've got to keep learning. There's so much. You can't say, I'm too old. I'm 62. I'm so much to do, so little time. Someone said to me, I'll be lucky if I've got 20 summers left in my life. 20 summers, that's scary. So that puts me at 82, and I hope at 82 I'm still running around investing and looking at opportunities. But it's getting out there and not sitting on your hands. If you're sitting on your hands, you'll get nowhere. You've got to engage, and even if you feel you make a fool of yourself, go and learn, read. If not, engage. The youngsters can explain. Instagram. It's appalling, most of these social media things. But and the amount of time and the heroes that it's made from the internet. These are not great role models in the world. But then on the business end of it, it's how business is going. And if you aren't part of it, you're going to be left behind. So you better make sure you educate yourself and turn your business. People think if you've got a website that you're equipped to go into battle. You're not. Website is just a basic thing today. It's the marketing of the website. It's a huge learning curve. And certainly if you think you've got a product and you've just got a website, you're not even beginning. There's a long way to go. So those are my thoughts on that.
Well, Alan, thank you very much for sharing your perspective as an investor and as a partner to startups. I think there's much to be learned.
Yeah, I still love the world of my original business, ChefWorks, which takes me into the hospitality industry. But even within the hospitality industry, there's huge amounts of innovative products that are making restaurants with artificial intelligence analyze the food consumption. There's huge food wastage. So there's a huge amount of smart apps and AI around the way that you prepare food or buy food, or so that you don't waste as much. And so even within my world that I've spent 40 years of my life in hospitality is changing so fast in front of my eyes. It's not true, but you're welcome. I hope there was something that you can use from my journey.